All right, man. Well, for everybody at home, as we record this, it's Friday, March 1st. You just got back in from doing 24.1, the live deal. And so we're rearranging the schedule to make it happen here. So we're going to do just a kind of a light, fun one today, just to play around a bit because things are hectic at the moment, so why not?
Yeah. Well, it is Friday after all, Pat. Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
so let's have a little fun.
Let's have some fun. And before we even get into what it's going to be, so you've been, for the last few days, hotels and airplanes. Did you keep on top of your fitness? And if so, how did you do it? Or did you say, screw it?
No, I did. I tried to be good. So we did a workout yesterday after the broadcast concluded. We dropped into a local affiliate, and we were kind of concerned as to whether they were going to be doing 24.1 right out the gate or if it was going to be something different. And it was kind of a fingers crossed. I don't think I'm mentally prepared to do this yet. And we got there, and it was the perfect kind of Thursday workout after you've been working all morning. We had an early call time, so it was refreshing to come into the gym and not have to really burn it down. It was a 20-minute workout, 20-minute AMRAP, 40 calories on the machine of your choice.
Okay.
15 strict, high-quality push-ups and 10 V-ups. So just a little huff and puff, get the blood flowing a little bit. It was perfect for the day. And so one of our photographers came with us, and he and I switched off every round between the bike and the row. So it was good. It's perfect.
And to tell you what you just said there too, there's a world of difference between how some people choose to do push-ups.
Absolutely,
there's a big strike zone of push-ups.
Well, the coach was saying, actually, he's like, I believe this is the most underutilized and most over-cheated movement.
Oh man,
on the books.
I think he could be onto something there. That's cool. I was today got a little hectic, just real life stuff. My daughter's had a heck of a last 7 to 10 days. She's been in the emergency room twice with some real real serious stuff. And I think she's on the mend, but she had a terrible night last night that resulted in me going into her room at 2 a.m., grabbing her, picking her up, getting her into kind of a rocking chair kind of a deal. It's the only way that she could sleep. So I basically rocked her nonstop from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. She slept, and I just did 1,000, calf raises. And then started my day. So I feel like a truck hit me. I was supposed to get in a heavy day today with a pretty cool rep scheme. It's supposed to be front squat, 2, 3, 5, 10, 2, 3, 5, 10. And you're supposed to hold, you're supposed to use the exact same weight on every single set.
That second set of 10 is going to be, that's rough.
It is. And all the little numbers add up. You don't give them respect because you chose the loading for the 10. But by the time you get to the first 10, you did 2, 3, 10, you did 2, 3, 5, you did 10, but in a different ways. And you probably took less rest than you needed to because they were little sets. And then it suddenly adds up, and the second half is quite different. But I didn't have time to do that. So to share real life with everybody at home, because that's going to take me a good hour, and I didn't have it today, at about 20 minutes. Ran into the garage, no warm up. And I just, in my mind, I was like, okay, as I was walking into the garage, I was like, what could I do? What could I do? What could I do? And I came up with just 5 rounds of 2 minutes in the air runner. Doesn't matter the distance I cover. Just jog at whatever feels appropriate for 2 minutes. 5 rounds of 2 minutes on that, and 10 squats bear hugging the 150 D ball.
That'll do it.
Dude, that did it.
Yeah.
And I was out of the gym in 15 minutes. And so
we had a similar
it's
Wednesday
one of those
workout.
deals where not a lot of time, now I would have preferred to warm up and cool down, don't get me wrong, but dealing with stuff with a little girl, you can make some things happen.
Yeah, well, it was similar for us on Wednesday. We had rehearsal day all day for the broadcast. You're on set for a long time. You know how it goes. There's a lot of kind of hurry up and wait. There's a lot of redoing certain sections to make sure that it's smooth on game day. And so we wrapped up probably around 6 o'clock in the evening after being on site all day. And some of the other judges, my good friend Jason McDonald suggested we get something in. So we did. It was a quick little, and Jenny Orr joined us as well. So we did an 8-minute AMRAP. I think it was a cap workout. 15 cals on the bike, 10 shoulder to overhead with 250-pound dumbbells, and then 20 box step-ups unloaded.
Nice.
So it was great. I was one of those ones where you kind of do the math ahead of time, and then you finish the first round, you look at the clock and you go, oh no, that's a lot more time than I thought I would have at this point. So it was good.
Cool.
And again, real life, there was not a lot of warm up. It was just enough to kind of get the pump going and then dive right in. So, but happy to do it. Happy to get something in there.
You push the Grim Reaper away another day. You know what I mean?
Hopefully. Yeah.
So the question that we've got today, it's funny, when you texted this to me, I know that I've seen this one more than once. And I don't know if it's been the same person posting it more than once or it's just more popular. But the question is, what would you and I be doing if we didn't stumble across CrossFit, and what if CrossFit didn't exist? And I'm curious, what's your interpretation of this? Are they talking just from a fitness standpoint, or from like, what would you have done to earn a living as well?
I mean, I take it more broadly and think about that capacity too. Like, what would you be doing professionally, not just for your own personal fitness? So I started thinking about that in terms of both of those. Yeah.
And let's do it one at a time. Do you want to start with your physical training regime or your employment?
Oh man, decisions.
Let's start physical fitness.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a good question, because back in the day before I started dabbling with CrossFit, I was really a physical culture junkie.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, like, I was really into kettlebells. I was training gymnastics and acrobatics on my own. I was actually interested in pursuing a career of sorts in that world via circus arts. So that was kind of a big focus of my training.
Super common career path.
I know. Yeah, absolutely. I had met one of the women that I went to university with. Her brother was an Olympic weightlifter. So I had some exposure to that early on. So, it's interesting. I definitely had a hand in some of these worlds, but I don't think they would have been as connected. I think that what I would have ended up doing is bouncing from one kind of physical goal to another, every 6 months or so. So,
a professional dabbler.
Yes. So build up to, like a really good 10-minute snatch test in kettlebell lifting or something. And then next goal would have been something like, okay, let's just focus on Olympic lifting total for the next year. And then, okay, next goal would have been, something else that would have been disparate. But the idea of blending all these things together, I don't know that ever would have been something that crossed my mind. So that was kind of the mind-blowing thing for me, was like, well, wait a minute, you can be a generalist and you can have a toe in all these things all the time. That was like the real light bulb moment. So I think that's where I would have been. Definitely still kind of in the weeds with physical culture. That's kind of on the fringe, but no real cohesive tie together. That's my guess.
I feel like you were worlds ahead of most people for actual developing some meaningful capacity, as I understand it now, and worlds ahead of where I was, because at least you were, if we now get into CrossFit's definition of things like functional or whatnot, you were out there with, good external objects like kettlebells. You knew somebody who was an Olympic weightlifter. That didn't cross my path forever, let alone
I got lucky, for sure.
Let alone kettlebells either, really. Maybe there were some of terrible quality that were super slippery sitting in the corner of a Gold's Gym that nobody used, but I didn't know what they were, what they were for, like never touched one. And what you were into with the acrobatics or gymnastics side, I mean, that's meaningfully using your body. There's coordination, accuracy, agility, like that, all that stuff that was largely void of, just traditional gym training. You had that. Now, maybe it was segmented, maybe it wasn't mixed together. I don't know what the intensity was like, but you had some critical components that I'm here to tell you I didn't have at all. I can tell you if CrossFit never existed, then it wouldn't have permeated culture, wouldn't have seen it everywhere, seen it in every magazine. So I'd still be doing just the same stuff that I'd always been doing, grew up reading, the Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, getting the monthly subscription to Muscle and Fitness, and whatnot, and reading all those stuff. And I had the Joe Weider weight set down in my basement. They had the bolt-on leg extension, leg curl thing at the end of the bench, and the plates were, the bar had like a 1/2 inch diameter. And,
Yep.
And it was, like screw collars. You'd screw the collars all the way down
yeah.
the end. And that was it. And it was all just classic segmented linear progression, classic overload, bodybuilding style, 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps of, Monday and Thursdays, chest and tri, Tuesday and Fridays, back and bi, Wednesday and Saturdays, legs and shoulders. And you sprinkle in some abs, segmented, of course, because nothing else works your abs. You sprinkle in some cardio every now and then. That's rather low intensity and long duration. And you work everything on the front of the body, and you don't worry about the posterior chain at all. And the only thing you touch a barbell for is bench press, seated military press, curls, maybe some skull crushers, and the behind the back wrist curl, of course. And, when you work legs, it's leg extension, leg curl, leg press, things like that. And there was no squats, no deadlifts, no controlling my own body, lat pull down probably instead of pull-ups and stuff like that. And that was largely it. And then, that was through about midway of high school. And then, when I decided I wanted to join the military, that on top of what I was already doing, the cardio that was associated with that got replaced with just a lot of long, slow distance, just out running forever. And I will say that at that point in time, when I decided to go into the military, the barbell, the classic bodybuilding stuff stayed, the 6 days a week stayed, the body part split stayed. But I did a lot more calisthenics just because I knew that we're going to have to do a ton of pull-ups, a ton of bar dips, a ton of push-ups, and a ton of like flutter kicks, so that was, and some swimming. But even like the swimming was long and slow. I didn't sprint on runs. I didn't sprint on swims. Like there was never really any intensity. And so I probably would be doing that long, slow distance mixed with bodybuilding style training forever and ever and ever. That would have been my life ad nauseum.
Well, I'll say too, I think we had overlap as younger men in that sense. Like when I was in high school and like late middle school, same thing. I was definitely following a bodybuilding split. And I used to ride my bike around a lot. Like mountain biking was a big thing. My brother was a very good mountain biker. I was trying to hang with him, so to speak. And that's just how we got around. Like the small town we grew up in, we were riding bikes everywhere all the time. So that was cardio, was the riding your bike. And then, I think I've told this story before, but my dad, he had a membership to a local gym through his work. He traded services with the owner of Sugar's Bodybuilding Gym.
It's a fantastic name.
Yeah, it really was. And it was exactly what you think it would be, like you picture.
Not flashy.
Yeah, Sugar's Gym in a small town, and it's, it was the bodybuilding kind of iron pit gym. And through that connection my dad had, myself, and I believe my brother did too, we basically had keys to the gym. And so we could go in whenever we wanted. And I remember, plenty of early mornings where I'd ride my bike down there and, meet my dad or meet my brother, and we'd get a pump session. And that was definitely the early days for many years. And then I'm not quite sure how I stumbled onto the kettlebells. Was like the first kind of out there thing that I came across.
That's pretty cool.
I can't even remember how or why, but that kind of bridged off, because those guys at the time, obviously it was pretty fringe, but they also were kind of a gateway drug for other things, because they referenced a lot of, popular powerlifters at the time and these kind of other, I guess you can't call them unorthodox methods.
Well, they'd already broken out from the norm back then.
Exactly. Yeah, they were outside the mainstream for sure. And so that was kind of the gateway drug to other things. But I can't remember for the life of me how I managed to stumble across that initially. So yeah, interesting stuff. But yeah, there was plenty of bodybuilding splits. And, I still have like Bill Pearl's bodybuilding book and some of the old, like Fred Hatfield, who's one of the first guys to squat 1,000 pounds. I think I have some of his books and, just some of the old school classics like that.
There's so much good old material out there as well, for sure. And I also remember back then I was just doing those long runs constantly because I thought this is what I needed to do in a set of like OD green jungle boots from Vietnam, like just on the blacktop concrete up there in Massachusetts, just hammering my knees into like, Lord knows what. And, all the time, like running with like a disc man, in my in my hands, and trying to get like the ones that had like the anti-skip, so you could, and that was it, man. And in Massachusetts, 4 seasons, it didn't matter, and those jungle boots are not good on icy roads. So I'm pretty glad that luckily something broke me free of that on many levels.
Yeah. It is interesting, the progression. It's funny, it's been so long now too that I've been doing CrossFit. It's like you think back and you're like, man, how did you get to that point? Like I do remember running across the website. I do remember kind of the first few workouts, putting your toe in, and it's kind of like half in, half out. I do remember my first ever CrossFit workout that I did for real. But then,
which was
Linda, 3 bars of death. That was the first like.
Welcome
top to
aboard.
Bottom. Yeah.
Were you sore the next day?
I mean, a little bit. No, I was destroyed. I mean, I can't remember if I told this story or not on the podcast, but I was working as a personal trainer at the time, and I had to have so many continuing education credits, and it was honestly a scam. It was the ACE certification or whatever, and the available courses to get these credits they were not worth your time. Mm-hmm. Anyway, there was one locally. It was a half an hour drive from my house where I was living at the time, and it was a stretching seminar. It ran all day. It was terrible. I didn't learn anything. I hated being there, but I had it in my mind that, okay, when this is done, I'm going to do this workout, this 3 bars of death workout. Yeah, and so I'd ridden my motorcycle 30 minutes to this gym that was hosting. The seminar concluded. I'm like, perfect. Now's my chance. And I went down into the basement where all the free weights were back in the day when it was, free weights are somewhere else from the the selectorized machines. And I set it up and I went through it. I have no idea what my time was. I mean, I'm sure it was nothing impressive.
Oh, my goodness, man. Just hit it.
Yeah. And I distinctly remember coming back up to the main level and, thinking I was good to go. I'd collected all my stuff, put my backpack on. I was ready to ride home on my motorcycle. And I got onto the bike and got as far as like putting the hands on the handlebars. And I was so unsure of my level of fatigue at that point. It's like, I don't think I can do this right now. So I had to get off my bike, walk down the little downtown area get a sandwich somewhere and collect myself. Before I could make the ride home. So
welcome aboard. Welcome to mixed modality. That's that sounds about right. What about on the side of employment? What in the world would you be doing right now? We wouldn't be talking about all the cool stuff we're talking about.
No, we wouldn't. That is something that I find very hard to imagine, because it's, like I said, it's been so long now, and I was involved in the fitness industry prior to finding CrossFit. I was a personal trainer. I was training myself primarily. That's how I got into it. I was training acrobatics at the time, and I was somebody in that world who at that time was a little bit of a outsider, because I did strength and conditioning for what it was. It wasn't anything impressive. It wasn't anything sophisticated,
right? But
I did other things to try to develop these attributes that I thought would be good for acrobatics. And that was really rare at the time. It was kind of frowned upon, It was one of those things where, well, you're going to get inflexible and slow. And yet,
right, of course, yes.
I was one of the more explosive and flexible people. And so slowly people started kind of putting one and one together. They're like, well, wait a minute. How is it that you are flexible, powerful? You don't seem to get hurt as often as some of the other guys training like you do.
Maybe there's something to this.
Yeah. And so what ended up happening kind of organically is I had a few of my training partners at the acrobatics school who started to get curious and train with me extracurricularly. And I remember with one of the female athletes that used to train with us, her name was Lauren. And I haven't spoken to her in probably 20 years. But she said, hey, you're really good at instructing. Like, this is something that seems to be natural for you. Have you ever considered being a personal trainer? And at that point in my life, I didn't know that you could get paid to tell people how to exercise. That was just totally foreign to me.
Right.
And so I thought, well, what's that? And, the rest is history. I went down and got my my personal training certificate and started working at a Bally Total Fitness. And that's how I paid the bills. So I have to believe, given that, that I think I still would have pursued something in fitness, at least for a while.
Yeah.
Because it was a natural fit for me at that point in my life.
The ball was rolling.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know where else I would have gone. It's a really good question.
Well, it worked out well.
Yeah.
Conversely, I had my life planned out and it did not go according to plan. My plan was going to train, going to go in the Navy, going to become a team guy, going to do 20 years, have a great career, retire, and not worry about anything. And about 7 years into being a team guy, broke my pelvis and couldn't do that job anymore, and suddenly found myself lost at sea. I was like, oh, this wasn't the plan. What's going on? I didn't really pay attention in college. I don't have a worthwhile degree that anyone cares about. So I was not supposed to need. Yeah. I was supposed to be doing something else, and I didn't know what to do at that time. And there was stuff going on in the world around there. It was like 2004-ish, and so I had some friends that were still, doing stuff overseas, like doing government work, work for the government overseas. And so contract work, I didn't really have another skill set. So I did that for a few years, maybe between 3 and 5 years, doing stuff overseas and then instructing people at home here. And that was okay. Pay the bills, was fine. And I remember having a conversation with some person that even overseas, we had this conversation. We're like, we can't do this for the rest of our life. Like, what are we going to do? Like, we could get real jobs. Like, it's, what's happening here? And so came back home one time and just didn't quite know what to do. And while I was floundering or whatnot, actually found CrossFit. Our mutual acquaintance, Mr. David Castro, turned me on to CrossFit, showed me the website. I did my first workout, through his recommendation. He was getting involved a lot with the program on the West Coast. I was on the East Coast, and this affiliate thing was kind of starting. And I was like, well, maybe I'll do that. Why not? I can affiliate my garage. Easy enough to, do that. And then just through total luck, I got involved with seminar staff. But if that hadn't happened, I'd come back from overseas. Man, I really have no honest clue what I'd be doing, because I really don't. I'll be really honest with you. I don't really have a skill set,
I feel very similarly.
That's useful in like the regular world, so I don't know if I would have got into law enforcement, would have maybe tried to apply for a federal agency or something like that. Those are like the common routes. So I probably would have tried to do something like that. And, I'm very happy with how things worked out. It was not a straight line. It was not the one that I intended. There was a lot of twists and turns and a couple cliffs to fall off of, but it worked out. So life's kind of crazy. Yeah,
it definitely is. And it is kind of funny how, I feel very similarly when you say, hey, it's not that I lack the confidence or belief in myself, but I think objectively, it's like I don't fit the mold for skill X, Y, or Z. And yes, so I totally understand what you say, where you're thinking about it. You're like, well, I don't really know where I would have fit professionally. But what's interesting is that I did have kind of two false starts in a performance kind of minded profession, right? So I studied music for 2 years, and then I dropped out of that program. It wasn't for me. And, so that was a big false start. And that was a huge part of my life before I engaged in that program. Before I got to that college program, that was all I did in high school and before. So that was kind of an interesting change of direction. And then when I went into, kind of pursuing acrobatics, same thing. There was a bit of a performance element there, obviously. And that didn't end up being a long-term thing either. So it's funny how the seminar staff kind of allowed for that outlet with this other emerging kind of fitness outlet. And it came together at a time in my life where it was like, wow, I get to public speak, which I like. I enjoy being on, that kind of stage a little bit. and this fitness thing that I was doing now to pay the bills that I didn't even know you could do a couple of years prior. So it is kind of weird how life, navigates itself sometimes.
100%. And luckily we landed where we landed, and we can have these fun conversations, and we don't have to have real jobs. Who wants real jobs?
Exactly.
Sounds absolutely terrible. But man, that was a fun question. Like I said, I know I've seen that at least once, if not more. So hopefully we nailed it by covering both sides of the coin right there. I think we probably did. I think we probably did. Yeah. This is what a professional I am. I'm always supposed to say this at the beginning of the show, and I always forget. So hey, everybody, if you're still listening, thank you. Go to verynotRandom.com, help support the show. Check out all the cool cycles we offer. Gymnastics, barbell, 1.5 mile runs, some really awesome stuff in there. And then if you're a gym owner, if you own any kind of gym on the planet that has members, go to btwb.com/all-in-one. And BTWB has you covered with the best workout tracking, gym management, and billing all in one place. And they will set you up, and then life will be amazing. That's the progression right there. So keep the good questions coming. If you'd like to answer these questions as well, find this episode on the BTWB YouTube channel. Post your thoughts in the comments. If you've got ideas for upcoming shows, we read those comments, so post them there as well. We sincerely appreciate it. And for Adrian Bosman, I'm Pat Sherwood, and we'll see you next time.